Welcome to the Voices of Young People podcast, brought to you by Springtide Research Institute. In each episode, we hear directly from young people as they respond to our research and share about the issues impacting their lives. As sociologists and researchers, we see a new story unfolding for young people, one that moves beyond traditional institutional boundaries and requires careful attention to the inner and outer lives of emerging generations. At the intersection of being and becoming, it's the Voices of Young People.
Hi everyone, it's Josh Packard here. I'm the Executive Director at Springtide Research Institute. And every time we do a new study, we bring you a new season of the Voices of Young People podcast. The format for season 3, the one you're listening to right now, is a little bit unique. Because in each episode this season, you're going to hear directly from a young person. So we've given them some questions and we've just let them go. And the responses are sort of unfiltered. This goes right along with our State of Religion and Young People 2020 report. If you don't have it already, I strongly encourage you to go to our website and download it, or you can find it on Amazon for just $10. It's free in digital form, thanks to a very generous donation. And in this episode, we get to hear from this young person, Jazmin, and one of the things I find to be very compelling about young people as they're doing this exploration and navigation and in some ways construction of their faith is the way that they build these boundaries that they sort of erect, for themselves, sometimes without even really much guidance. And here, Jazmin is going to share with us why she identifies as spiritually fluid, what sort of practices she finds grounding, including meditation and intergenerational storytelling, and the type of faith community she hopes to engage in the future. So if you are, if you're an adult who works with young people, take note, because there's young people like Jazmin out there who are really looking for something specific, whether it's existing right now or if it's for a day down the road. All right, on to Jazmin.
Okay, hi, my name is Jazmin. I use she, her pronouns. I am 25 and I live in Chicago. I'm also a second year in a master's program at the University of Illinois at Chicago in urban planning. I don't identify with a particular religious identity or faith tradition. I kind of joke that my faith is fluid, and that I'm not assigning myself to anything in particular. I think I believe in what feels right to me and myself, and that I haven't come across anything that I can assign that to. When I think of God or a higher power, there isn't any particular image that comes to mind. I think the way I can describe it is the way it makes me feel. I think of something more than myself. I think of a divine being, something that makes me feel love, something that makes me feel safe and not fearful. But there hasn't been an image that I think I can assign to that. I don't attend a house of worship or necessarily participate in a faith community. I did grow up in a Pentecostal, Christian church, but our family left before I was a teenager. But I was old enough to kind of remember some of the, I don't remember the lessons, but I remember what those teachings made me feel like. I think I'll probably return to some type of faith community. I just haven't found it yet, and that might not necessarily look like a church, but I'm figuring it out. It hasn't been something that I think I'm actively looking for. I think I've been waiting for it to come to me, or I'll go to it. But it's not something I've intentionally searched for. I think a lot of people, I think specifically a lot of Latinos participate in Catholicism. My dad, grew up in a Catholic church, was raised as a Catholic, And then when my parents moved from Chicago to Colorado, started attending this church. And so it kind of switched in like their practices and the way they went about religion. And the only way that I could describe that church, and I think a lot of organized religions, is how do I say this? I think a lot of people come out of it traumatized, especially after leaving the church. And that informs a lot of the way we feel as adults towards it. And not even just like these horrible stories that we hear about priests and members of churches and congregations, but also like, I don't think that I should have felt fear in the way that I did as a 6-year-old. That like still resonates and made me fearful of church in general. So I think about that a lot too. Of if I didn't have this, if I didn't attach those feelings of fear so much to the church, like would I be able right now in my life to comfortably and feel safely to go into a church and not have to reckon with that? So that's something that I consider too, of even like my family goes to church, my brothers go to church. That's something that they like doing for themselves, but they know not to ask me. And I mean, they'll invite me, but usually the answer is no. And that's something that we kind of talk about as a family of like, yo, like they probably shouldn't be telling me this as a kid that this is going to happen to me if I don't believe this. Like there should have been practices of love and gentleness and like trying to inform children as children and not as like a message that you share with adults. Like there's better ways to retell these stories and these lessons. One of the most sacred experiences I've had, I think I have a lot of them. The first one that I had thought of was in 2016, me and a couple of my friends went to some of the actions going around Standing Rock. So we went there, we met with like beforehand, some like indigenous communities in Denver, and we drove to South Dakota with these supplies, and we were staying with a family from Denver who were also there for some of the actions. So the way that we went about it too, like we were there in prayer, we were there in like practice, and it was a few days and a couple of nights. And so, you know, praying in teepees, kind of like helping some of the community needs, cooking, and being, I don't know, just being in community and in prayer, and completely being devoted to that for a couple of days. I don't think, I've never had that experience because I've never been able to, but in the way that like my life operated then as like a college student and operates now as still a college student, and everything being so like tied to like my own participation in like capitalism and like I there's things and labor, like I have to do these things or not for the community. Sorry, this is a bigger thing, but the point is that like I've never been able to practice something sacred for that long, and for other people that were not like my immediate family, were not my like immediate friends, even though I was there with them. It wasn't necessarily for us. I do different things to practice my spirituality. I think I've tried to be more intentional with it after, I think especially after going to Standing Rock and then becoming an adult. For instance, like my mom and I go to a community meditation here in the neighborhood every week. And we tried yoga, but we're not great at it, so we don't do that as much. I like to like ask my like older family members to share stories. I think there's something sacred in hearing storytelling, hearing stories from our elders about their birthplaces, and even like talking to them, learning, and like this sharing of ancestral knowledge, whether that's recipes or I don't know, like folklore stories. And I think that's something that I try to be intentional about too, of making sure that these stories get continued on. I didn't feel that way when I was younger. It just felt like they were like, I had to listen to them because they were older. And now I see the importance of the importance that elders have in our lives, and how much that's tied to feeling like grounded and sacred. I find these practices meaningful because the feeling of community is consistent. The community meditation is, clearly a community effort to this place, like the space that we're living in right now, the land that we're living in right now, and also feeling like we're a part of this community. This is a neighborhood that my mom grew up in, moved away, and then is returned as like a full older adult. And so just returning back to this land and how much it's changed, but also honoring it in that way. And then meaningful, like storytelling and hearing these stories from elders is meaningful. Like, I guess I answered that, like making sure that these stories continue on. And if I decide to have kids, the overall value of these practices on my life is helping me feel grounded, helping me feel a part of a wider community, of having a relationship with my elders, and having a relationship to myself, a good relationship with myself. It's not necessarily just a response to these violent, wider systems, but that these practices have helped me cultivate a relationship with things that matter to me, have cultivated a relationship, like I said, with the land, with my community, with the elders, and ultimately myself. An important person that comes to mind when I think of someone who has helped shape my spiritual identity is a curandera that I've worked with. Curanderas are folk healers or medicine women who use spiritualism and herbs to treat different like illnesses, or not necessarily, okay, sometimes illnesses, but just like healing in general. They curanderas help with healing. And I met her a few years ago, probably around 2015. She has helped me build a better connection with myself, with my family, has helped me understand the importance of healing with herbs and rituals, cleansing spaces, cleansing myself through limpias, cleansings in general. She also happens to be a licensed counselor and a professor. She's pretty badass. She's like a triple threat. I think this goes back to also the importance of understanding the ways that how sometimes trauma informs our relationship with religion and spirituality. So she was able to help me understand me as myself and like my identities and like these ancestral ideas and practices. And she was also able to acknowledge the more interpersonal experiences that I've had as a person, as a counselor. So dealing with trauma, dealing with, these things that exist within me as a person, and then as a curandera with me and as a person, like who is from the US and has these relationships to, what the US was before colonialism. And she's really helped me shape my own experiences with spirituality, has helped me shape the way I go about spirituality, how I participate in something divine, in something sacred. And yeah, she's great.
Visit springtideresearch.org to hear more voices of young people and to download the State of Religion and Young People 2020 report, which is free thanks to a very generous donation. Today's show was produced by Marta Abuaji and TJ Birnbaum, with original music by high school student Christian Unthank. Special thanks to our guest today and to all the young people whose perspectives and insights make our research possible. Remember to find us on social media at We Are Springtide and share your own stories with the hashtag ShowUpForYoungPeople. Thanks for listening.